Today, I'm gonna show you how to make yourself invisible in Photoshop. Hey guys, and welcome to Phlearn. My name is Aaron Nace, and you can find me on Phlearn.com, where we make learning fun. And in today's episode, we're gonna show you an awesome technique to make yourself invisible in Photoshop. Now, this is something anyone can do. We're gonna show you through the entire photographic process and through Photoshop. So here's what you're gonna need for this effect. You're gonna want a camera, obviously. You need a tripod. The camera has to stay in the same place. It's also really nice to have another person help you with this project, because you gotta line a lot of things up, and it's better to do that in a pair. You wanna make sure you have a computer so you can tether your camera to that computer and see your photos as they come up. And then it really helps to have a long sleeve shirt, just like I've got on right now. And if it's white, that's even better, because you're gonna have to do some blending in Photoshop, and blending white on white is much easier than doing something with a pattern. And then you're gonna want a prop, something that you can hold or interact with, which is gonna complete the effect. Now, as far as software goes, you're gonna need Photoshop to complete the effect, and during the photographic process, you're gonna wanna shoot tethered, which means as you take pictures on your camera, they should show up on your computer. Now, we use Capture One for this, and the reason is Capture One allows you to display an image and then overlay that image onto your new photographs, so you can see how different images line up and how they compare together. This makes the process way easier. Now, you can totally do this using Lightroom or a different program, but if you don't have that overlay feature, it is a little bit more tricky to get everything lined up properly. Now, if you don't have the ability to shoot tethered, that's connecting your camera to a computer via a USB cable, then you can use markers on the back of your LCD screen to mark where your arms and legs and head, things like that are. Don't damage your LCD screen here. Use paper tape or a dry erase marker, something that you can get off easily. Basically, you just want to mark a certain place so you can line things up properly after the photo shoot. So here's the photographic process. Basically, you want to make sure you get one picture that's going to serve as your base photograph. Now, in this case, we used a picture of me holding a guitar, wearing this long sleeve shirt and just kind of hanging out on the couch. Now, you can use any props or wardrobe that you want here, but to sell the effect and make it look more realistic, you want to make sure that your body is interacting with your wardrobe and with your props. In this case, we had held a guitar, which required two hands, and I was wearing a hat, which gave my head a little bit of a placement as well. Now, the trick comes in photographing different parts of my body that we're going to replace in Photoshop. So to complete the effect, you want to make sure you take a picture of your empty clothing in that same position. For instance, if I've got a hand showing here, we need to make that hand invisible. So you would take a picture of your sleeve, just like this, in the exact same position that your sleeve was in before, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna be removing that hand in Photoshop. So basically, anywhere your body is visible, make sure you take another picture of your clothing that doesn't have your body in it. So for this effect, we did a bunch of different pictures. We started off with our base picture and then basically took separate pictures for each of the different body parts, making sure that one hand was gone and then the other hand was gone. Then we did the collar, and we did both of the pant legs, and then we even filled out an area for the hat. So we're gonna be compositing multiple images together to complete this effect. Now keep in mind, this is a lot of compositing in Photoshop. It's not too difficult. We're gonna show you through the entire process, but the more limbs you remove in Photoshop, the more difficult your composite becomes. So if this is your first time, maybe try just doing one arm or maybe an arm and a head. If you do your entire body, this is something you totally can do. It's just gonna be more work and a little bit more difficult. Here are some tips for this effect. One, you wanna make sure you're wearing simple clothing. In this case, I'm wearing a white shirt. White is really easy to composite with other white areas, so don't wear anything that's too complicated. Next, you want to be sure you can actually photograph the different pieces, so don't do this in a precarious place or somewhere where you can't get easy access to. And you're going to spend a lot of time here. Take a little bit more pictures than you need. It's just going to give you more room to work with in post-production. Next, make sure your camera is on a tripod. The camera needs to stay in the exact same place for this effect to work. And you want to make sure you're in manual mode. You don't want any of your settings to change. Lock your focus to manual focus and make sure the lighting stays consistent from one shot to another. So if you guys just want to practice this effect, you can actually download all these images on Phlearn.com. Just follow the link on your screen right now. All right, guys, so that's it for the photographic process. Now let's go ahead and jump into Photoshop to bring everything together and complete our effect. All right, guys, let's go ahead and pull this effect together in Photoshop. So let's go to File, down to Script, and I'm gonna go to Load Files into Stack, which is really great when you got a bunch of different files you want in one document. So let's hit Browse here. Now, you can actually download these images on Phlearn.com. Just follow the link on your screen right now. So I renamed them just to make our job a little bit easier. So we have images for our collar, for the full body, for the guitar. Basically, we're just gonna hit Shift and click on all of those images, and hit open. Now I want to automatically align the source images, so make sure you check that and hit OK. So basically this is just going to pull all of our images together and put them in one document. So all of our images are together in one document. So I'm going to take our full body and go ahead and drag that all the way down to the very bottom, and you can see everything is labeled really well. So we know what we're going to be putting in each individual document. So I'm going to start off with our right arm here. Now for the right arm, we're going to be using this part of the arm, and we're going to use part of the leg too, because I need to remove the leg. So basically here the goal, let's just zoom in a little bit. Our goal here is we want to lower our opacity and just make sure that everything lines up perfectly. Now everything's not going to be absolutely perfect. That's just not really possible when it comes to this sort of effect, but you want to get it pretty close. So let's get it pretty close right about there. Then let's increase our opacity. I'm going to hold Alt or Option and click on our layer mask to make a black layer mask. And then we're just going to paint white on our layer mask right over here. And if things are aligned pretty well, basically our effects should just come together pretty naturally. There we go. And this is where it really, really helps out to have everything looking, when we used Capture One to actually capture these photos, it really, really helps out to have like a visual reference of where all these images are lining up, so your work in Photoshop gets much, much easier. All right. So in this case, let's see. I'm painting this back visible and it's like, it's not lining up perfectly where my guitar is. It's not really a big deal. If you ever need to make any adjustments like I do for this layer, okay, what we want to do is I'm going to zoom out. We're going to use our rectangular marquee tool, and let's make a selection a little bit larger than what we need. There we go. Now on this layer itself, be sure to click on the layer. We're going to hit Control or Command T, and that's going to transform just this selection. So basically, I just need this to line up. I need like this little bar here to just move to the right a little bit. So I'm going to hold the Control or the Command key, and we're going to click there, and I can just drag this. You can see I'm moving this around basically, okay? Now, I don't need to go super far. Just right to about there is going to help everything line up perfectly, okay? Now, just because I moved this side, the left side should stay about where it was. If I need to move this a little bit, I can do that as well. Again, just hold Control or Command and move that side too. So when you're done, just hit Enter, and in this case, we're only using a certain part of the frame, so it doesn't really matter if, doing that is going to totally skew the entire image, but it doesn't really matter in this case because I'm only using a certain part of our frame. Okay, great. So basically what we have here, let's see what we've got. Basically what we have here is our, let's just make this invisible and visible again. There we go. We have our original collar, or the original sleeve here, and then our sleeve from our new photo. So zooming in, all we need to do is basically merge these things together, and we need to make sure that everything kind of like blends. So I'm using my layer masks to make sure that everything blends together. So painting black and white on our layer masks is going to allow me to merge all of our layers together. And if something doesn't merge together perfectly, it's really not the end of the world. Let's go ahead and get that right there. It's not the end of the world. You can always clone stamp, and you can make things like, you can kind of force things into looking good. So in this case, let's go ahead and do that. All right. Let's go ahead and paint that black just a little bit more. All right, and there's that little sleeve. So everything is not going to be 100% perfect. I wouldn't expect it to be so. All right, so what we've got now is that looks pretty good. Now, we do have a couple of things we need to do. First, we need to lighten up this part of the sleeve. So I'm going to grab a curves adjustment layer, okay? And we're going to go ahead and clip this to our sleeve layer. So let's clip this by clicking on the clipping icon right there. And then I'm going to simply brighten this up a little bit. There we go. And again, I don't want this visible everywhere, okay? Just right over here. So I'm going to hit Control or Command I on the layer mask to invert that layer mask, and then just paint the layer mask white right over here. Okay, so that's going to kind of lighten that up, and it's going to help it look like it actually blends in. Now, I need to change the color as well, because the yellow color here from the light is kind of affecting the color on the sleeve. So let's create a new layer. Okay, Option Command G is going to clip that as well, and I'm going to use my brush tool to sample this lighter color and paint right over here. All right, then we're going to change our layer blend mode from normal down to color. All right, so there you can see it's lining up super well now. Now, any other areas that it's not like perfect, not a big deal. Just create a new layer and we can use our healing brush tool. So let's go to our healing brush tool here. I'm going to sample right here and just paint right over the area. Make sure you're sampled to current and below. So we're going to sample here and paint right over the edge there. All right. And then here on the very bottom, let's use our clone stamp tool. So S for the clone stamp tool. And we're just going to sample this area. Make sure you're sampled current and below again. All right. And we're just going to fill that little sleeve in. Now earlier, remember we said, hey, when you use white, it makes your job easier in Photoshop. This is why, because anything that you need to composite together, if you have white clothing, it makes it much easier because you're just like basically compositing white on white. It's going to be much easier than if there's like a complicated pattern there. All right, so let's just clone stamp that in, and there we go. So the sleeve looks really good. We can see this effect is complete. We have, again, the white part of the sleeve with the white part of the sleeve. White on white makes things easy. So let's go ahead and zoom out. There we go. And I'm going to group all of these together. So this is my right arm. Now, if I make these invisible, we can see this is where we brightened it up. We changed our color there, and we clone stamped some things together. All right, so let's go ahead and, you know what? I'm just going to paint black on my layer mask right here, a little bit on that sleeve for the bottom area. All right, and let's go ahead and group those together. So basically, that's the effect. You just want to make sure that you put your new layer in there, line everything up properly, and make sure that everything looks clean when you mask it in. So now that we've taken care of one arm, let's go ahead over here to our other arm, which I'm going to need to replace the guitar first of all. So let's go ahead and make our guitar layer visible. Okay, we'll bring that right down here. I'm going to lower the opacity, and we just want to move this in place. So let's use our move tool to just move our guitar right into the right place. We'll increase our opacity again, and I'm going to hold Alt or Option and click on my layer mask. All right, now we're just going to paint white on the layer mask. And again, because we had the guitar pretty much in the right place, I'm just able to mask that right in. This should be pretty easy. There we go. Let's go ahead and mask in the rest of the couch there. All right, and right down to that area. Okay, so we've got our guitar in place now. Everything looks good there. Let's go ahead and get the arm. So we have our left arm here. Let's go ahead and bring that down, make it visible, and lower our opacity again. We just want to make sure we're putting this in the right place here. So let's use our move tool and just move it right to the right location here. All right, now in this case, I'm going to make a selection here, and we're just going to transform this. And this is something totally normal. Everything's not going to be perfect. So let's hit Control or Command T. We're going to stretch this out a little bit here, okay? So I'm just stretching it out to make sure that everything does in fact line up exactly where we need it to. That's the whole point here. That's the name of the game, is can we get everything to line up properly? Because once everything lines up, there we go. Once everything lines up, then your effect is basically complete. So you can hold Control or Command and click on any of these corners and just move these around. Okay, let's hit Enter there. And we'll go ahead and bring our opacity all the way back up to 100%. Hold Alt or Option and click on our layer mask. And then we're just going to layer mask. We're going to paint white on our layer mask and just bring that collar back in, or sleeve rather. All right. And there we go. Pretty good, huh? Now, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. We do want a little bit more of an accurate selection here. The reason being, there we go. Let's go ahead and bring that down. The reason being, we can see a little bit outside of the selection here, and you can see Angela's like hair and arm and stuff like that, right? So basically what we want to do is make sure that we don't see anything outside of this. So we can use the pen tool to just make a selection right around the edge. So let's hit P for the pen tool. We're going to zoom in, and I'm going to basically just click and drag here to make a selection right around the edge of the shirt. Now make sure you're slightly inside of the edge, and that's going to help you when it comes time to cut this out, because you don't want to include, this is the stuff we don't want to include, right? So make sure you're slightly inside of the collar or the sleeve here. There we go. And you can see this is not blending perfectly on the right side, but again, because we used white on white, I can most definitely just blend that together on another layer. Okay, so basically you just made a pen path right around there. Let's right click and go to Make Selection. We're going to feather this by 0.5 pixels, and then here on my layer mask, we're just going to paint black on my layer mask right there because we don't want it to be visible there. All right, there we go. And we'll just paint black right over there. All right, and we can see that's all the way to the very edge there. Now we'll just do a little bit of work on a new layer. I'm just gonna grab our clone stamp tool. Just a little bit of work here with our clone stamp tool to kind of like fill everything in, and we'll be done with this sleeve as well. All right, here we go. Clone stamp this little area in right there as well. Just make sure everything kind of lines up. All right, there we go. And I'm on a new layer here, okay? So everything we're doing is totally non-destructive. Okay, there we go. So we have our, let's zoom in here, just take care of that just a little bit there. Perfect. All right, so here we have our other arm. So let's go ahead and group those together, and we can turn that off and on, and we can see how everything blends together again. So again, a big help out using just a white shirt, because everything does blend together pretty well. All right, and you can go in here and kind of clean this up a little bit more if you want to, but we're looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and just bring that in just a little bit softer. There we go. All right, looking good. So we've got both arms taken care of. Next, let's go ahead and take care of the head. So to do this, we've got a couple of hat layers. This first layer, basically I just moved out of the way, and I need a little bit of this background. So I'm gonna hold Alt or Option and click on my layer mask, and we're gonna paint white over here, right along this area. Okay, and this is basically just gonna completely get rid of me and the bottom area of this hat. And there we go, and that looks pretty good. So painting that in, now we've got another hat area, a hat layer. Let's go ahead and make that visible as well. And then this time we're going to lower our opacity. Okay, let's make a selection around the hat because it's not perfect. So we got a selection there. Control or Command T, and we can go ahead and make it a little bit larger and rotate it around and scale it into place. All right, there we go. And Control or Command on that side, and let's just go ahead and pull that into place as well. And really, I just need the bottom edge to work. So let's hit Enter there. Now we're going to bring our opacity back up to 100%. You can see it's all wonky right here. That's why I needed to copy this area from underneath. Okay, so I'm going to hold Alt or Option and click on my layer mask, making a black layer mask. All right, and we can see I'm just painting this white in right over here. And here we have our hat. All right, very nice. Now I want the bottom of the edge of the hat to be really nice and sharp, so we're just going to use our pen tool again. All right. Just basically making a path here that we're going to turn into a selection. There we go. So right click here, we'll go to Make Selection and hit OK. And then here on this layer, okay, we're just going to paint this black on our layer mask here to make this part of the layer mask invisible. Okay, I'm going to inverse this and paint it white to make sure that it is visible there. All right. There we go, looking pretty good. So here we have the hat effect. Let's go ahead and zoom out, and there we go. We have no head. Pretty cool. So let's go ahead and group those. I'm going to bring those down here as well. So here we have that part of the effect, and next we have to take care of the collar. So let's go ahead and turn our collar layer on. Now in this case, I know I just need this collar, so I'm going to go ahead and make a selection right around the collar and just duplicate this to a new layer. So Control or Command J is going to duplicate that to a new layer. This way I don't have to deal with the entire image. All right, let's go ahead and lower down the opacity here, and we're going to move this collar into place. So the thing to keep in mind here is that really all I need is the inside of the collar. All this, like this part of the collar and all this stuff, I really want to keep that from my original photo. So all that I'm looking here is I'm just looking to get the inside of my collar. And I'm going to do this in a couple of different layers. So let's go ahead and duplicate this layer. I'm going to hit Control or Command J to duplicate that. And then we're just going to transform this into place. All right, there we go. Let's hit enter there, and we'll bring our opacity back up. So now let's hold Alt or Option, click on our layer mask, and then we're just going to paint this back visible. Here's a little fun tidbit for you guys. This is actually the shirt that I got married in. This is my wedding shirt. That's why it's Armani. I don't normally wear shirts like that, by the way. I was in Las Vegas and I needed a fancy shirt, and this is the only one that I found that actually fit me right. Anyway, if you guys think that I normally wear fancy clothes, I do not. I'm a tank top kind of guy. Anyway, I knew that there would be some comments on the internet about like, Armani, what the hell? He's trying to show off. This is the only white shirt that I have, actually. There we go. All right. Cool. So let's make that visible and invisible so we can kind of see how everything kind of blends in together there. And I'm going to get rid of this, the little tags in the hat and the shirt, because they don't, they're not a necessary part of this photo shoot. All right, so that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and bring this all the way to right about there. Like I said, we're going to do this in a couple of different layers because this layer is not, it's not perfect. You can see it kind of ends a little bit too soon right there. So not a big deal. If that happens to you, just do these kind of things in a few different layers. All right, cool. So what we're going to do now is, again, we're going to use our pen tool and make sure that we have a nice selection around here. So let's hit P for the pen tool. We're going to just go ahead and make our selection, all right, right over here. And this is, again, this is just clicking and dragging with the pen tool. And if you need any help with the pen tool, just go to phlearn.com and then type in pen tool into the search bar. We have a bunch of great free episodes on using the Phlearn on the pen tool, and we have some pro episodes on the pen tool as well. There we go. All right, let's right click. We'll make that a selection. All right, and then here on my layer mask, we just want to paint black on my layer mask because I don't want it to be visible there too. There we go. Cool. So we said we're going to do this in a couple of different layers. So that's the left-hand side. Now we'll do this another one. I'm going to make a duplicate of this, and we'll do this on the right-hand side now. So we just want everything to line up here. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and bring our opacity back up. We're going to put a black layer mask on there, and then just paint white here on our layer mask. There we go, all the way up to right about here. Oh, I need to move my layer, so I'm going to unlink my layer and my layer mask, and we just need to move our layer up just a little bit so everything actually blends in, everything fits there. And let's go ahead and link my layer and my layer mask again. All right, and that tag we're going to get rid of too. All right, so we've got the inside pretty good here. Now we just need one more copy of this. So the collar is definitely the hardest part of this. So with this last copy here, we're just going to take care of just the collar area. All right, there we go, and we're going to paint that back visible on our layer mask right there to bring in that top part of the collar. All right, and you can see our exposure is slightly different, so not a big deal. We're going to use our clipping mask to just lighten that up a little bit, okay? So basically, clipping masks just become only visible on one layer. So I just need to brighten this up. So let's grab a curves adjustment layer. I'm going to clip that by clicking on our clipping mask icon. Let's brighten that up a little bit. There we go. Invert the layer mask and then just paint white right over here, and everything should blend in really nice and smoothly. All right, we're almost done with the collar, guys. And you can see, again, this is why I suggest using white. It just makes everything blend. It makes your blending much easier because, you know, we did everything that we possibly could to make this easy. You know, using Capture One, using the image overlays, you know, spending, you know, taking our time and getting everything as like captured as well as we possibly could. But even after all that, you're going to have some cases where you just need to kind of like go in here and blend things back together again. And this is why I suggest just shooting with white because it makes that much easier. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of that tag there. I'm just using my healing brush tool to do that. Sample right over here, and we'll just paint right over the tag there. There we go. And then we're gonna do the same thing here. So healing brush tool, there's sample right over there, and we're just gonna paint here and get rid of that tag as well. All right, pretty cool. So let's go ahead and group those together all the way down to the collar. There we go. So there we have our collar and this is our hat, and here's our collar. All right, guys, we are almost done with our effect. So now that you know what we're doing in Photoshop, let's go ahead and speed things up. I'm gonna continue through the entire process, and you can see everything going in super speed. Okay guys, we're done with our effect. Here's our before and the after. All right guys, that's how we create the invisible effect in Photoshop. Thanks so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Now give us a big thumbs up and let us know in a comment right down below if you want to see more episodes like this one. And don't forget, you can download these images on Phlearn.com. And if you do create this effect, upload your image to this episode on Phlearn so everyone can see what a badass you are. Thanks so much, guys. I'll Phlearn you later. Bye, everyone. We may have had a little bit of alcohol one night and got around naming all the plants in the studio. That may have happened. Tronjor?
Is that the name of the plant?
Yeah, it's Tronjor. This is Emily.
And Tronjor.
Yeah, and Tronjor.
Okay.
And Emily. And there's Prosperity as well. Tronjor. You're my favorite palm in this studio, Tronjor. Tronjito for short.
Is that shorter?
Tronjito for long.